Hello there, I am Dark Shades and welcome to my channel. Feel free to share this video to anyone you think will find it useful. You can like, you can dislike, and you can subscribe. I decided to talk about grief because a lot of times people associate grief with death. And grief doesn't only happen when someone has died. You know, sometimes grief can happen while someone is alive. I'm still waiting to grieve. A part of me is still waiting to grieve for my mother. I don't feel as though I've grieved. Maybe I grieved for her when I knew she was terminally ill. Maybe I knew I was going to leave her and I grieved back then so that after she died, I didn't have the same degree of grief I felt I should have for somebody who was my role model and who I loved very much. So I wanted to talk about what grief is really. And grief is about any kind of loss. It could be the loss of an arm, it could be the loss of an eye, it could be the loss of a job, it can be the loss of freedom, it could be the loss of your rights. It could be a loss of a family member. Grief happens whenever you lose something. So when we're thinking about grief, we have to think about it in terms of what is happening to us now. What are we grieving over? Why are so many of us going through the 5 stages, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, of anger, denial? We haven't reached the point of acceptance yet. We're losing, or we seem to be losing our rights, our freedom, our jobs, our livelihood. And we don't understand why we are feeling the way we're feeling. We're feeling a sense of loss, a sense of chaos, a sense of you don't know what to do with yourself. You're constantly questioning. You're bargaining with yourself. If only I'd done this, or if only I had done that, or if I hadn't done this, or I hadn't done that. Because you're feeling a sense of loss. You're grieving. Majority of us in the UK are grieving because the coronavirus is like it's taken away something from all of us, and so we're all feeling a sense of loss. And so with that background, I just wanted to go through my notes, and I think Ralph Waldo Emerson explains it really well. He says, sorrow makes us all children again. It destroys all differences of intellect. The wisest know nothing. That's because when we are in sorrow and grief, we do become needy, we become sorrowful. We're looking for validation. We're looking for attention. We're looking for something. We're looking for someone to hold us and say, everything's going to be all right. Don't worry. And so, yes, like Ralph Waldo Emerson says, we become like children. And death is taboo. And even though what we're going through, for some of us, it's even a sense of loss or grief. Even though some of us are grieving because someone has actually died and we've lost someone to COVID, we're also feeling a sense of loss when we hear people we know are dying or are in hospital. I mean, I've had over the last 3 days, 3 of my colleagues, DJs, people, musicians who are either dying or are in hospital, and it makes me feel so uncomfortable and lost. And I'm like, is it a rumor? Is it true? I'm going through that same state of denial. I don't want to believe it's true. I don't want to believe that people I know are dying or are sick in hospital. I don't want to believe in the coronavirus. I don't want to believe it's going to affect each and every one of us in one way or the other. But I have to accept that it will, and it is, before I can move on and make myself live a reasonably um, healthy life. Grieving is a natural part of life. Grief is only a problem when the survivor feels they cannot cope without the deceased in their lives, or feel that life is not worth living anymore. So, if we want to translate this into what we feel we're losing, whether it's a job, whether it is your home, that you're grieving over, it will become a problem if you think, oh my God, my life isn't worth anything without a job. I cannot live without a roof over my head. I cannot live without a spouse or partner or a friend. We should be interdependent. And yes, it will be difficult and it will be a struggle to survive without a job, without a roof over your head. But depending on your mentality and how you deal with it determines how deep in grief you will fall. So organize the guilt. Try to live a reasonably good life depending on your circumstances. That's easy for me to say. And you might even say that it's easy for you to say you look all right. Nobody knows what anybody is going through. Appearances are deceiving. So and that's another thing that depresses people. People look at other people and think they are okay. They see them all dressed up, they see them all dolled up, and they think, oh, they're all right. Look what they've got. What have they got to complain about? They've got it all. Next thing you know, they're hanging from a bloody tree. Remember Muggy Mike in Love Island? What about that comedian? Martin, I can't. Oh, his name's gone out. But you cannot look at people, and because they're smiling and they look okay, they are okay. And then you're envying those people and you don't know what those people are going through. So never assume that someone is okay and doing okay. Don't assume just because I'm talking to you and I'm on this video that even I'm okay. You don't know what's going on in my life. So we have to get a grip and we have to take responsibility for our own lives and stop comparing. Because when we compare, that's also a form of grief, because we're pining over what we've lost or what we think other people should have that we should have. Why have they got it and we haven't got it? Start questioning. And yet you don't know what those people have, especially when they're not in your life. They're complete strangers. So look for a productive and fulfilling future. Look at photographs. Try to remember the person in a kind of conscious way. Don't let the grief overwhelm you. Don't let losing your job overwhelm you. I'm not talking, it's difficult to talk about people leaving their homes because that's a basic need. Even jobs are a basic need because it helps you get through. But it's when it overwhelms you. And because when something overwhelms you, you cannot be rational. You cannot think. You don't know what to do. So we're not taught growing up to have emotional intelligence. We're not taught, like the Chinese, to be rational and disciplined with our emotions. And as a result, when things don't go the way we want them to, or we're not used to, we're all over the place. Our minds are all over the place. And our mental illness is affected. So we've got to be careful. I know a woman at work told me, we're not used to taking orders. It was a middle class white woman. And she says, the British are just not used to taking orders. So she feels as though her freedom has been taken away. She cannot get over being isolated or quarantined or on lockdown because she's just not used to it. So for her, she's grieving. She might not realize she's grieving, but she is. She's grieving the loss of life as it was before. And that's what many of us are doing. We're grieving the loss of life how it was before. So be patient with yourself. Keep your expectations realistic. Try not to over focus on what you've lost, or how you feel lost with what you've lost, if that makes sense. Distinguish grief from trauma. You know, there's a difference between going through grief and being traumatized by the grief, and that depends a lot on the mindset. I don't know where I got this from, but it said the last punctuation mark at the end of the story is not the end of the book itself. It is just the way that story ends. All the other chapters are still there, with all their events and illustrations. When we think of a book, we think of it as a whole book, not just the ending. So I guess what this is saying is that, yes, this moment in time, things are not going well, and you do feel a sense of grief and loss. But this is just one part of your whole life, a very small part of the life that has gone before. And what this is saying is that this will make a part of the story. This isn't the end. This isn't the full stop. This is only a punctuation mark. So be gentle with yourself. Listen to your inner self, your inner voice, and be compassionate with it. You know, a lot of us, we talk, we hear our voices and we're angry and we chastise ourselves. You know, why didn't I do this? Why is that? You know, what choice I made there? Whatever it is, we chastise ourselves. So keep your life simple. At the moment, just keep your life simple as possible. Don't overcomplicate it. Cut down everything you possibly can. Live on the minimal. Surround yourself with the minimal. Let the minimal make you feel happy. Be satisfied with the minimal. I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in a foster home, and we had bread and jam every evening. And so on a Sunday, we'd have our Sunday dinner. That was roast beef, roast potatoes, and some peas. That was a luxury. So, you know, when we had that bread and jam every night, just one slice, it made the roast on a Sunday a luxury. We've got used to having luxuries every day. We don't even realize they're luxuries, but they are luxuries. You know, being able to eat out, ordering food in, that's a luxury. And some people have kind of developed a mindset that they feel it's a right. I should be able to have Deliveroo or Just Eat deliver to my door. And if I can't afford to do that, I'm deprived. And as such, they're feeling a sense of loss when they don't have the money to order in. And then they start grieving, and that starts becoming a part of their grieving process. So be careful what you're grieving over. Don't compound one thing with another. Don't confuse one thing with another. So allow yourself time and space to grieve. Don't pretend you're not hurting. Work through your thoughts and your feelings. A lot of us, we deny what we're feeling, and we're trying to be positive when deep inside we're hurting like hell. Don't pretend. Accept it. It's not necessary for you to talk to somebody about it. Like I say, journaling is always best as long as you get it out. If you've got someone to talk to them. If you want to talk into the voice note on your phone, do that. But just get it out exactly how you're feeling. You feel like bawling, bawl. You know? And this kind of situation will make people's emotion rise. People will get angry more quickly. People will cry more easily and more readily. It's a natural part of the process. It's a natural part of the grieving process. People might not even know why they're reacting in such an emotional way. It's because they're grieving. And the same way when you remember somebody you've lost and it brings you to tears, the same way you're going through this COVID situation, you feel a sense of loss of whether it's a handshake, whether it's a hug, whether it's just going up the road with a few friends, and it fills you with tears. But because you're not focusing on that as being grief, you don't realize where the tears come from. That's where the tears come from. It comes from a sense of loss. So give yourself permission to set grieving aside. Don't grieve longer than necessary. Try to laugh as much as possible. And it's always best, watch comedy. Don't drown yourself in news. And don't watch unnecessary videos that are talking about things that are negative and that bring you down. Try to look at comedies. Look at things like The Voice. You might hate The Voice. Look at it anyway. Look at some of these ridiculous reality shows that is so ridiculous. You're like I've started watching Married at First Sight. It's so light. I go to bed with a smile on my face. I can't even watch Gogglebox Too Tough now because they inject it with all this violent films and stuff. So I can't even watch that. So that's gone. But The Voice is there for me. And sometimes I watch The Chase. And now, but my latest thing now is I've got to watch Marriage at First Sight. And occasionally I might even watch RuPaul. But it's something I wouldn't normally watch. But it takes me away from what is going on. Yes, it might be a distraction, but if that distraction makes me feel a bit better and brings a smile to my face, it's better for me. So seek support from safe people, not those who are going to tell you how to grieve. Most people don't even know what's going on. People don't even know what's going on inside them. So when you're thinking about safe people, a safe person to grieve, that would either be a professional or it will be somebody who you know understands you and knows where you're coming from and understands the process. Accept that life will change. This is only for a time. You might feel crazy now. Maybe a couple of years down the line, you'll think, oh my God, I didn't think I'd ever get through that. And look how strong I am now. Look how more resilient I am now. Look what I have now. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I can go out to the shops and with my family and without a mask and without worrying. A couple of years' time, that's what you'll be doing. You'll be so grateful just to spend time with family members outside your home. Things that you took for granted. You'll be so grateful maybe to go to the cinemas if the cinemas are still on and you haven't got addicted to Netflix. Little things you took for granted, you'll be so grateful for. You'll be so grateful for a hug, to hold your family members. For me, anyway, I get a bit emotional. But I'm looking forward to seeing my grandchildren. And as much as I encourage them, I still miss them. And you can watch Facebook, you could FaceTime, you can Google, you can Skype as much as you like. It's not the same. So I'm looking forward to that time when I will see my grandchildren again in person and be able to hold them. And in that time in the future, when I look back, I learn to appreciate them more. Have faith that grieving leads to personal growth. Achieving acceptance will make you wiser. Try to find the meaning in your suffering. Invest in your pain. By investing in your pain, you could be painting, you could be baking, you could be doing anything that's therapeutic. Even cleaning the house can be therapeutic depending on your mindset, and you don't look at it as a chore. Just do one thing at a time. But, find meaning in what you're going through. Self-care is never more important than grieving a major loss. When you don't know what to do, ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need to do to take care of myself right now? Eat, rest, shower, talk to someone. Self-care is very important. And even when you can't see somebody, pick up the phone. It's important. And that's all for now. Bye-bye.